It is Tuesday. No, it's not. I'm lying. It was Wednesday. I am in my BMW 320i, the car that I picked up on Friday. So this is my sixth day of ownership, third day of driving it. As I said in the previous video, the stereo in this car is not very good at all. I've been driving around using my UE Mega Boom connected to my iPhone via Bluetooth to play my music, because the stereo just isn't up to much cop at all. I had said in a previous video that I have ordered all of the bits that I need to plug in a stereo, an aftermarket stereo, into the car. Those bits have all arrived a bit earlier than expected. So what I want to do today is I'm going to try and install it. If I'm to believe what I read on the internet, I reckon this should be about a 20-minute job maximum. I'm going to look really stupid if it takes me longer, I guess. This is only the third time that I've ever installed an aftermarket stereo in a car, so I'm by no means a professional. It's not something I've done a lot, but hopefully it shouldn't be too difficult. All we need to do is take out the air conditioning unit and take out the head unit, and then replace it with the aftermarket parts. Now, I've seen a couple of tutorials on the internet for how to take these out. I've seen two different ways of doing it. One is to remove the center console itself and then take out the I.C.E, followed by the head unit. Other ways I've seen it done is just literally just taking out the air conditioning and then the head unit and leaving the center console in place. I'm going to try and do it leaving the center console in place, because it's more effort than I want to go to. And it didn't look like it made too much of a difference. I think the main reason for taking out the center console in the video that I saw it in was because it was a double DIN being fitted, and therefore there was more effort required. I'm just fitting a single DIN, so it should be quite simple. Now let's have a look at the parts. We've got an Alpine CDE 181R, which I had in my Mini. I bought it for the Mini Cooper S to replace the tape deck and CD change that was in there. We can see at the front we've got a USB slot where I can plug in my iPhone, and an auxiliary support as well. I won't use that. I won't use the radio. I won't use the CD. I will just be using the USB slot, very more than likely. So that's the stereo. We've got a connects to C something 06 adapter. This allows me to retain the steering wheel controls and also the reverse parking sensors. It's very important to me that I keep the reverse parking sensors. Well, I say it's very important. I can live without them. All of my other cars don't have them, and you kind of get used to it after a while. But if I can retain them, I'd like to. So that's why I bought this unit instead of just buying one that keeps the steering wheel controls. We've got the harness itself, which is what plugs into that unit and also into the back of the new head unit. We've got a cable here that is for a continuous power supply. That will plug into the fuse box at the back of the glove compartment, if I'm reading everything correctly. And then finally we've got this cable here, which allows me to plug into the back of the head unit and retain the steering wheel controls. And then finally we've got the connects to Fascia adapter. I've attached the harness to it already, the cage, just so that it's there and in place. And I think that's it. So let's give an idea as to why I want to replace the stereo. I've got the iPhone plugged in with the auxiliary cable into the auxiliary port, which comes as standard on this car. I've got the volume on the iPhone set to maximum and the volume set low on here. So let's turn it up now we started playing. Now, to be fair, that didn't actually sound too bad. It didn't sound that good when I've had other music playing through there. It's very quiet on other songs that I've got. So I'm starting to wonder why I'm going to change it. No, it's going to be nice to be able to plug in using USB and use the steering wheel controls. That's the main thing for me, I think. The standard head unit, it's the BMW Professional. It's not amplified in any way at all. I think I say not in any way, I think it outputs something like 2 watts per channel. The Alpine that we're going to connect does 50 watts per channel. Hopefully that doesn't blow the speakers. I might have to replace them otherwise. The speaker system, this has got the very base stereo. So we've got, in the front, we have a component which just does highs and mids, I believe. There's no individual tweeter, it is just all in this one speaker here. Under the seats we've got 8-inch woofers that do the bass side of it, and then in the back on the parcel shelf we have I think it's just mids and bass sounds. There's very little in the way of top end separation in the car. So yeah, hopefully it's all going to work out well. Alright, let's get started with the install, see how it goes. So, the aftermarket stereo installation is complete in the BMW 320i. For the eagle-eyed among you, you can probably tell that since I started the installation, I'm not only sat in a different seat in the car, but I'm wearing different clothes. I didn't get changed in the middle of the installation, that would have been daft. I suffered a problem. What happened was I first installed the stereo, switched it on to test it, as you do before you put everything back, and it worked brilliantly. I had reversing beeps, I had music, and the steering wheel controls worked. However, when I went to put it all back into the actual enclosure, for some reason it just stopped working, and I sat here for maybe 30 minutes trying different things to get it working, and I just could not get any power to the stereo at all. I tried bypassing the harness that I got that's connected to the steering wheel controls and to the parking sensors. I tried to remove that and plug straight into the actual connections that go into the OEM head unit, so that it would source power from there rather than from the fuse box, and that didn't work. The reason why I thought it might be this was because I had trouble finding a fuse point in the fuse box that I thought would work. I had looked it up previously on the internet and found an example of where I could plug it in, but when I went to do that I couldn't actually find that fuse spot because I didn't have the picture. I looked up some other pictures and none of them matched what was there, so I couldn't get it to work at all. What I did was I then tried the stereo in the Mini. I still have the Mini here, so I plugged into that to see if, okay, have I broken the stereo, or is it a problem with the car itself? I don't know. So I tried it in the Mini and I couldn't get it to work in the Mini either, and I thought, okay, maybe I've screwed up the stereo, because the OEM head unit still works whilst plugged in. So yesterday morning I took a blind leap of faith and ordered a new head unit. I didn't spend a lot. I bought pretty much the same model that I had previously, and the last one I had was a 191R or 181R. The one I've just bought is a 192R. There's not really a great deal of difference. The button layout is slightly different, I think, but other than that the features are all pretty much exactly the same. So I've plugged that in, and that didn't work either, disappointingly. So I've got the manual out, done some looking, and there was a connection that I hadn't plugged in, which was the ignition connection. I was trying to use just the 12 volt source, so I tried plugging in the ignition connection as well, and hip hip hooray, it worked. So the stereo is now working. If I look around, here we go, we can see the new head unit is in place. We can see it's currently in demo mode, showing you all the things that it will do. Now, it obviously doesn't look totally OEM, and it's never going to look totally OEM. It's an aftermarket head unit. However, I think that the fascia fits in quite nicely. It's got a nice protruding part to it. It's not all flat like the OEM connection. And I don't know, I think it looks all right. You know, it doesn't look like it is from the factory, but then that's not such a big deal. I don't necessarily want it to look like it's come from the factory. I need it to do what I want it to do. Now, I don't have with me the same music that I had when I tried the install 2 days ago, which is when I first tried it. So I'm going to try a different bit of music and we'll see how that sounds. What we can do is we can use that's me pressing the control on the steering wheel. So as we can see, the steering wheel controls do work, which is great. I can play some music. For the benefit of copywriting, this is Everybody Come On by Mr. Red versus DJ Skribble. I'll put that in an overlay on the video. But as we can see, steering wheel control works. That's me pressing it on there. That's good. The sound quality, to be honest, is still very, very poor, and that's because of these speakers, and I talked about those earlier in the video. What I might look at doing, if I feel like spending the money, is upgrading them. It would mean buying new trim for here so that I can fit a tweeter in there, put new crossovers for here and there, maybe replace the subwoofers under the seats. They're currently 8-inch woofers, but you can replace them with 10-inch from what I've seen on the internet, and also replace the rear speakers. But that's going to be when I've got a little bit more money to play with, and when I know for sure that I'm going to keep this car for a long time. If I'm only going to keep it for a year, like I have done with the last Mini, well, which I had that for 6 months, and the Mini before that I had for 6 months as well. If I'm going to keep this for a long time, then I might look at that level of investment. Earlier in the video, when I switched the music on and said that actually doesn't sound too bad, it didn't when you're sat here. I tried it with a piece of my own music as well, and when you're just sat here it does sound sort of okay, but when you're driving the sound level was just absolutely terrible. So yeah, hopefully this unit sounds better when I'm driving. Like I say, the sound quality is still very poor, but I think I can live with it. I mean, for the moment, it's no worse than the OEM sound quality having this in here, but at least now I can control my music from here, from the head unit. I don't have to worry about switching the phone on and trying to use touchscreen while I'm driving, because it's not the best experience using a capacitive touchscreen whilst you're driving. So this should be good. We can change music. So we can go back to the start of the track by pressing here. We can pause, we can unpause, we can change the source. It can do everything that the stereo is supposed to be able to do, and that's great. The auxiliary input down in here, that no longer works, but that's fine because we've got auxiliary in the front of the stereo and we'll never be using it anyway. And then apart from the steering wheel controls, the main thing that I wanted to work was the reversing sensor. So what happens is it uses a reversing sensor built into the head unit, I think, or at least the sound is. It still uses the reversing sensors that are in the bumper, of course. So we've started the car, we go into reverse, that tells us we're in reverse, and then the beeps tells us how close we are to whatever's behind us. Brilliant. So that's everything that I wanted it to be able to do. I've got control of my music using a USB cable plugged into the phone. Happy days. So yeah, that's it. Aftermarket stereo installed in the BMW. It took me a long time to find the fuse that I wanted and to feed through to the fuse box. That took me the longest bit. If I'd have known what I was doing there, the install would have been a lot quicker. If I'd have got the connections right, had that sorted straight away, I reckon I would have been done with this installation in about 15 minutes, to be honest. It's been very, very straightforward. So yeah, if you've got a BMW 3 Series, yeah, it's not a difficult job. By all means, give it a go yourself. Thank you very much.